So good morning, everyone. My name is Byung. I'm a career strategist from AACC, Academic Advising and Career Center at the UTSC. Today, we are going to have a second session of this postgraduate prep series. So I'm gonna go to a little bit more detail, but today's our focus is admission test and requirements for this grad school. So let's get going. So this full session is composed of first session we did it on Tuesday. The recording will be available. So we discussed about where to begin about the grad school, and today is admission test. And next Tuesday we're gonna talk about CVM Personal Statement. And the next Thursday, which is the last session, we're gonna talk about fundings, references, and how to prepare admission interview. So if you're interested in it, please join. So let's review briefly about what we discussed last time. On Tuesday, we discussed about where to begin. So one important thing about grad school is before you're making that final decision, okay, I'm gonna go for grad school, you better ask yourself some of those important questions. So I suggest people to think about, what do I want my career and life look like in a few years? I know it's difficult, but at least as a short-term goal, you should have some aim. You should have some short-term goal to reach out. So to reach out that goal, what kind of degree or certificate do I need it? Do I actually need an education for that? So that's something you really have to think about it before you're making a decision. And third thing I suggested was, what are my limitations if I have to go to the grad school right now? Financially, am I ready? Geographically means, am I willing to relocate to other countries or other provinces, other cities? Because lots of grad school is located in many different places. And academically, meaning I don't really like to study, but do I have to go to grad school? Well, that's a big question. So if you're not really into study, well, that's not the best way, right? But also there are many other things considered. But so think about, what are my limitations? So we discussed about this, and then we went into detail of then how to find those programs. So for those details, if you missed it, the recording will be available on our further education showcase, those virtual exhibit hall on the website. This week, today, actually not just this week, today, we are going to talk about specifically about admission test. Not every grad school require admission test, but quite a few. So we're going to talk about those details and the requirement. Every grad school asking certain requirement. So you probably want to get familiar with this and want to know what does that mean when they require these kind of things. So first, I'd like to ask you some questions. So I know everybody has Mentimeter experience. So why don't you go to menti.com? There's number here, 5470367. Please just answer this question. What types of tests are you aware of? I just want to know your knowledge about these admission tests. What kind of tests are you familiar with? Or unless you heard about, just type it in, please. It will pop up as a word cloud. GRE, LSAT, MCAT, perfect. Continue, please. You can actually repeat it if you want to, because that one is going to be bigger, right? I'll give you a minute. GMAT, yeah, absolutely. What else? What else do you think we should know actually as a admission test? These are very common. There's some more. If you know anything, just let me know. If there is any unusual things, unusual test that you know, let me know too. Casper, yes, it's a relatively new test, but it's getting more important. TOEFL, yeah, absolutely. I mean, pretty much UT student doesn't need to repeat the TOEFL because you graduating English academic speaking institution. So I don't believe you need it, but many international students need it for English proficiency test. Okay, is there anything else? These are the very common ones. So thank you for sharing that, but they might have more. And actually I have a few more. I'm gonna share with you a little bit later. Okay, thanks for sharing. I have a one more. So just stay on this same menti.com. The second question I'd like to ask you is, what types of requirement do we need? Okay, I'm not talking about test. Okay, we already discussed about test. What are those requirements when you actually going to the grad school? What are the typical requirements they ask for? Please share with everybody. Something coming up. GPA, transcript, personal statement, courses, references, CV. I think you guys are an expert of all these things. Yes, it is. These are very, very important. Letter of reference, references, yes, resume and CV, similarity in it, but slightly different. Is there something more? Is something more coming? Did I miss anything? Okay, there are a few more, but absolutely, these are the critical things. All right, so something else, personal statement? Okay, I think it's the same thing. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this. Let me go back to my slide. So those are the requirements, those are the tests we can expect. So let's go in detail. So some of those common questions that I heard, my colleagues and me, we heard a lot of questions about grad school and something about requirement. These are the common questions. Do I need to take an admission test? The answer is maybe, because depending on the program, they might ask for it. Probably those students who's going for those very, very professional, especially healthcare industry, the training program, you might heard lots of those, MCAT, that sort of a very specific test. So let's go into it a little bit later. How to prepare for certain tests. So I'm going to mention about the test, and I'm going to show you how you can prepare for these tests. And I want to go to this school, this program. What do I need? So that is a typical requirement question. We really need to look at their requirement page. Sometimes it's unclear, then you even have to call them and then send them an email to get to know exactly what they want. But there are typical things as we discussed before, and I will go back there again. What are the GPA requirements? GPA is probably the biggest question we are getting at. I got certain GPA, is that good enough? It could be good enough, it could be not. So depending on program, how comparative it is. So we'll take a look at that. Do I need to take a particular courses? It's called prerequisite courses, require credits. Quite a few grad school, they do that, but not every grad school actually asking for it. So just be aware, not every grad school is asking you to take certain courses, but we have to be very carefully look at the admission requirement. Do I need a research experience? That's another big question. Basically, grad school means research is in it, even though that grad school is not research degree. So having research experience is always helpful, but not required for many programs. However, if you're going for research degree program, it's kind of obvious for them to expect you to have research experience, okay? Or at least research skills, or you took some research related courses, something you can demonstrate. So that's more common sense approach for that matters, although they are not going to say clearly, yeah, you have to have a research experience. So let's talk a little bit about that. Do I need work experience? More work experience is better. but relevant work experience is always the best way. Some grad school actually mention we want to see if you have these kind of work experience. Not every school actually asking for it, just some very particular programs. So I'm gonna show you some example. So, by the way, I think I actually just kind of skip at the beginning. I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce Wendy again. Wendy is just quietly sitting, but she's going to answer your question on the chat box. So if there is any question, oh, I'd like to ask this question right away, you can do that. Just using our chat box and ask a question. Wendy going to go through those questions and answer it. And also at the end, we are going to revisit those important questions. And absolutely, I'm gonna give you at least 10 minutes at the end, kind of Q&A session. So you can just unmute yourself or just using the chat box to ask some other questions that we didn't answer. So thank you, Wendy, for taking care of that chat box, answering it. So please use the chat box. So going back to my slide, I mentioned this last session, but there are research degree program and there are professional degree program. That's the two master's degree types. And then there is a third one, which is not a degree, but is further education for those people who finishing their undergraduate program. So research degree, definitely you might expect those research related experience. But even though you don't have a research experience, it's totally possible to get into that program if you demonstrating some of those research skills and courses you took it. Professional degree, not necessarily they are asking for research, but they might asking you some relevant courses or relevant experience. And maybe they might asking you to submit your resume and stuff like that. Certificate and diploma courses from the those further education postgraduate certificate program, typically they don't require too many things. They don't even require GPA. So only thing they need to know is, did you complete your degree? Okay, and sometimes they're asking you, oh, you have certain degree, a science degree or art degree, something like that. But otherwise, they don't have that many requirements. So let's get going on the admission test. So these are the common admission tests, and you already mentioned some of them. Let's start from the very top, GRE. Okay, GRE is the most common standardized test for the grad school in North America. Well, it's not only in North America, but mostly in North America, and also in US is way more common than Canada. Canada we do, but not as common as America. Particularly for the past couple of years, because the pandemic, a lot of Canadian schools, they just waive this GRE requirements. They say, okay, it's okay, you can skip that. So Canadian grad school doesn't really forcing anyone to take a GRE, that kind of thing. But in America, they do a lot. So just be aware of that. It's very common, it's very general. There's a general test, which is you can take a test almost every week. There's unlimited, almost frequent test, but there is a special subject. So some school, they might asking you, okay, you need to have a GRE in physics or something like that. So they have a 6th subject. GRE in biology, GRE in English literacy, something like that. If that's the case, you actually have to plan better because they do have those special subject tests, not every week, okay, certain months. So you have to take a look at those GRE schedule and make a plan for this. But that's actually rare, to be honest. MCAT is very, very important test if anyone going for the medical school, because it's mandatory. Pretty much every medical school in North America, Canada, and US. So that's something you have to take care of it. I'm gonna have another slide. We're gonna talk about how to prepare for this. LSAT is a law school, so that's very specific. If you are planning for law school, LSAT is another mandatory test you have to prepare. GMAT is a little interesting because this is typically designed for those people who's going for the management or business school's master's program. But also some other schools, they are not management or business, they actually adopt this GMAT because GMAT has a little bit similarity to GRE, but a little bit more mathematics skills in it. So they like to do that. So that's another important test. Casper is very interesting. This is a relatively new, actually it's developed by the McMaster University. I don't know, not even 10 years ago, but it's getting a great momentum. They love to, asking students to take this Casper because it's about the aptitude, not about the skills or ability. So basically you don't have to prepare for this. You just have to get familiar with this kind of setting. But a lot of those schools, especially in the healthcare industry, they like to give you this as an option or mandatory test. PCAT, DAT, OAT, I just put it together because it's very specific. PCAT is for the pharmacy, DAT is for the dental, OAT for the optometrist. So those very professional schools, they said they have own exams, which is very, very specific. So you actually have to go through that channel. Beside that, they might have some tests, but which is very rare, to be honest with you. GRE is pretty much most common grad school tests you could ever imagine. So let's briefly talk about how you can actually prepare for this. There are a lot of those paid commercial when you go to YouTube, Instagram. Once you type the GRE somewhere in your Google, next day you will see all those commercials popping up on your social media. Because this is a kind of business for this private academy. It's okay. I mean, you can probably take a look at it. If the price is okay and it's giving you a good option to go for it, I have no reason to stop you. But I recommend you to start from their official website because their official website, which I actually mentioned all this official website here, and I'm gonna share this slide after this session with those people who's attending. So you can definitely have this website on you. They do have the prep session within their website. So like a GRE has this free prep materials, you can go through it. Start from there because maybe it's not enough for you. Then you can actually go for a little bit of commercial version. Sometimes you can actually join their classes or sometimes you can actually buy the books. I don't know if anyone actually buying books anymore, but that's an option. Same goes to MCAT. GRE is most common. That's why pretty much a lot of people actually seen something about GRE somewhere. MCAT is very particular for medical school. So AAMC, which is the regulation body of this American medical school, and they actually operating MCAT, and they actually have a page dedicated for this MCAT preparation. And Khan Academy, which is online platform for the online education, they have a free courses for the MCAT preparation. Of course, if that's not enough, you can go for extra things. But starting from there is a good idea. So you have some idea, what is this test about? LSAT, pretty much the same case. If you go to the LSAT website, well, I didn't put the website here because it's just, you can just Google it, LSAT Low Hub. That's a keyword. They have something called Low Hub, and they have those prep, pages. And also they actually associate with the Khan Academy. Khan Academy actually providing these official prep courses there. So take a look at that. GMAT, they operating their own. So this is a website and they have an official prep kit there too. Same case, if you really need to spend more time and money for this, well, go for it. Maybe library has some extra books for this. So go for it. Casper is the only test you don't have to pay extra. What I'm saying is like, you really don't need to spend money to, prepare for the Casper. Just be familiar with the test setting because the Casper setting is, they're giving you the scenario and giving you time. You think about it and you're writing down how you're gonna react. Everybody has a different reaction. So there is no right or wrong answer. So that's why you don't actually need to prepare for this. but they actually do have a test prep page. So they're giving you a little bit of test. So get familiar with, oh, this is a set. And Casper test is relatively cheaper than the other one. MCAT is over 300 US dollars. GRE is, I think, 200. LSAT is 200 something. So it's everything is over 200 US, not Canadian. So it's not that cheap, but if it's required test from the grad program, no choice, you gotta do it. You can take more than once. Most of these tests, they are asking you to take more than once to choose the best score. So that's one good thing about it. PCAT, DAT, OAT, I'm not gonna go detail because this is very limited, those area of the population. But definitely, if you are going for example, like pharmacy school, they actually have those linked to the PCAT. However, U of T, for example, U of T, pharmacy school, they are not doing PCAT anymore. They replace with the Casper. So I guess that's a good thing because you don't have to prepare another test. But some other pharmacy school, they still might continue on the PCAT. So just make sure that all those requirements is still there. DAT is still going on. It's a dental school. Canadian, American, they are all doing the DAT. OAT is not too many university has it, but when they have it, they definitely have this OAT link in it. Okay, that's about the test. Is there anything that you have a question? You can leave it in the chat box. I'm actually seeing just one question now, so I'm gonna just read it. Do you have to take the general GRE and the specific subject tests, for example, psychology, at the same time, or can you do them separately? You can do them separately. That's not a problem. But do you need to do that? Both of them? That's something you should double check with the grad school. Maybe they just don't think you need it. You just need a GRE test and that's it. But if they think they said, oh, you have to take this specific one, maybe that's the one that you really need to focus on. Another question, I'm not sure if I can stay for the intercession. Will it be recorded? Yes, it is recording right now and it will be shared. Slide also. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna come back to this chat box later, but let's continue going. Next question is really important. It's a GPA. I'm pretty sure everybody else keep looking at their transcript. Am I actually good enough to go to grad school? Let me give you my experience. My first year university was terrible. I was skipping classes and I don't know. Maybe I was having too much party. My GPA was terrible. Second year, slightly better. And I thought, okay, maybe I better do something. So in my third year and the last 2 years, I did way better. So when I actually applied my grad school, which I didn't apply right away, I applied like many years of gap years and I applied. And I recognized it. The school that applying, they said, okay, last 2 years. Oh, perfect. So last 2 years GPA was the only thing they require for it. And that is the most common GPA requirement for many of grad school. Not every grad school, by the way. So for example, if you're going to medical school, no, they are looking at CGPA. However, even medical school, they giving you option to drop one, either full year or one semester of the terrible GPA you had it, because they understand maybe you might have some personal reason you didn't do well, and then calculating the rest of them, something like that. So each school has a slightly different things they apply. Sometimes they say 2 years, sometimes most recent 2 years. That's what they say, or most recent 10 credits. Or sometimes they say last year. Sometimes they said 5 credits. So they are all slightly different. Okay, I'm gonna maybe show you a little bit of example later. So just be careful what they're asking for. Don't just think about CGPA. CGPA is rare, to be honest with you. They like to see the most recent one, which means what? Upper year courses, C-level, D-level courses. So just be aware. That's the most important credits they like to look at it in terms of your transcript. So what's the GPA typical average is a mid-B and above is required. Okay, if it's a C plus, really difficult. But I have seen, depending on program though, some student has very good reason why my GPA wasn't high enough, but I can prove something else. So this student was sort of negotiate with the admission committee, give me a chance so I can prove something else. So they actually listened to her and then she got it. I mean, she was sharing her story when I attended one of those sociology alumni panel discussion. And she was the one who didn't get enough high GPA. Her GPA was 2.89, which is not even 3. So it is not the average. But she was really providing extra documents, extra experience that she could say that she could definitely come up better. And the admission committee accepted her. And she went into the program, which was, I believe, some sort of counseling program. And then now she's working for a very specific counsel, which is a crisis counseling. So that's the whole story. She was encouraging the other students, if your GPA is low, don't give up yet. You definitely have to think about other way to prove your ability. So, but that's the one. But if you have above mid B or B plus, that's something typically required. Okay, and also the program is very highly comparative program. It really no choice. The admission committee has to pick higher GPA with other good things. Okay, so just be aware of that. So I just mentioned about CGPA versus the sessional GPA. So just be aware whatever specific thing they require for it. Yeah, I also mentioned, what if my GPA is lower than minimum requirement? You should ask. Don't just give up. You should ask admission committee. I'm just a little bit short, but I can tell you I have other experience that might be, compensate my low GPA or whatever. Who knows? Admission committee might give you a chance. They might actually asking you to submit something else. That's happening. Okay, don't just give up yet, for that matter. The last things that I put it there, which one is more critical, GPA or personal statement or references? What do you think? Which one is most critical? One of these 3 really important requirements. I just giving you that here. Put it in the chat box. Which one? GPA or personal statement or references? Lucia said personal statements. Anyone else? Just guess. Saloni said references. Hader said CV. Shalom, very smart. All of them matter. Okay. But Shalom is correct. All of them matters. All of them matters. So what I mean by this is most of students thinking GPA should be the top one. Not exactly. As long as you above their minimum requirement of the GPA, they actually consider the rest of references and personal statement very equally. Yes, so GPA cannot be lower than whatever the requirement. Then that's hard to argue to provide the other document. But if your CV and references, if your GPA is above the average, and definitely the other 2 is such an important document for admission committee going to pay attention. So just keep that in mind. So that's about the GPA. Okay, let's move on. If you have more questions later on, please go ahead. Course, yeah, they do require certain courses, but I'm not too sure how many actually grad school actually these days require certain courses, prerequisite courses. Not too many. When I applied my course, it was policy related, grad school. Only thing they require is all those typical things, but not the courses. No test, no courses. So I was totally happy about it because I didn't actually study policy. So just be aware. So the admission requirements, reading carefully. And if they didn't say anything about prerequisite courses, don't worry about it, okay? But they do, then you have to make sure that your courses is matching with their courses. So that's the biggest question too. Some students, I took these courses, I'm not too sure if that is matching with them. No one can tell except the admission office. So if that's the case, you're unsure about these are the credit that's equivalent to their whatever the courses they require, you really need to talk to the admission office. Don't be afraid. They are the one who's love to answer your question. And making a list of the courses you took it at the U of T, and let's say you're applying to the UBC some program, you're not sure. Is that equivalent? Would you mind telling me if this is actually equivalent to the program, the required courses? Admission officer has tons of experience. Oh, from U of T, yeah, those courses definitely fine. Something like that. U of T cannot tell because we are not operating their program. But then the school that you're applying, they could tell. So just be sure that's the option. The next one is how to identify the right course to take. So that's the same question, to be honest. So I haven't taken it, but I have to take it, but I'm not sure if this is the course. You could also consult with this admission office for that matters, if that's the case. But most time people don't do that. They just taking courses and then see if that's fitting. There's a CR and CR matter. Okay, this is another big question that I'm getting a lot. Credit, non-credit, not ideal. Okay, for the grad school, credit, no credit is not ideal. That doesn't mean credit, no credit is going to be considered as no. No, it's not like that. They actually okay with that, but they want to know why you did a credit, no credit, especially if the courses are something that they require. So I have one case, the student had a pretty decent GPA. He applied to McGill and he got this letter. They actually sent the letter, not the email, and saying, okay, well, I don't actually remember his name, but let's say his name is Tom. Hey, Tom, you applied to our program and we got your academic transcript. One of your courses says credit, no credit. Could you explain why that was the case? And he got freaked out. So he came to talk to me and we discussed, you know what, it seems like this is not really required courses, but still they want to know. So giving them your honest. And he was saying, yeah, because on that year I took extra courses, so this one was too much. So I just making as a CR and CR, but it wasn't one of those required courses. So ask him to just giving them that honest answer. Well, because that's how it is. But sometimes the grad school office probably do that logistically rather than they really want to know about it. So don't get scared about if you got any question about it, but just get to know CR and CR is not the ideal, but not the worst case. Okay, if sometimes, well, if you are really going to make it like a D for your course, and that's how you're gonna make a CR and CR, right? So you have to make that decision for that matter. The last thing I like to discuss is statistics, which is getting more common as a required courses for many programs. Even though you're not going to study anything near the statistic, they want you to have certain statistic credits, even arts degree, anything like that. So why? Because grad school means you gotta do a lot of data analysis. You gotta do research component, even though if it's not a research program. So they want you to have a good foundation about statistical knowledge. So not every program though, but this is very common. So you gotta have it. So that's the one big question. And sometimes they're asking not just pass, but 75 plus, or I don't know, a certain level. And student took one time, wasn't that level, then you really need to take another one. So just be aware of that. Okay, I'm gonna just move to the next things. But do I have any question to answer? Yeah, the Shalom said, do grad schools skip or include NCF for GPA requirement? So that's the thing that we just discussed, right? But CR, NCR is not something, the particular case they want to elaborate it. But yeah, CR, NCR doesn't really appear on the GPA as a, grade, right? But you pass that. So it has no meaning in terms of GPA if you have a CR, NCR, but absolutely can see it. Let's say you have like a 5 CR, NCR. Well, that sounds problematic, something like that. Yes, Wendy, thank you. Wendy actually just answered a good question, good answer for that. Okay, I'm gonna move on and then we're gonna come back. What are the experience requirements? Okay, sometimes they're asking you to have certain experience, but it's rare though, but sometimes. So if they officially require, for example, MSW program, Master of Social Work, they require to have certain hours of community activities. They even ask you, you gotta have certain hours. Then they're asking you to making a clear timeline and how many hours you've been working for certain organization. Anyone can verify this. Medical school too, they're actually asking you to put very detail of those. So if admission requirements says so, you gotta make that happen. MT, which is Master of Teaching, is teaching. So they're asking you to have a certain hours of teaching in a group setting. So tutoring is not counting in many cases. Usually teaching in a group setting, that's what they require. So it's depending on program, right? So there's lots of those programs actually have certain requirement, but it's uncommon, I must say. They don't exactly require certain experience unless those are very particular programs. I just said not required, but good to have is all the grad programs welcome your work-related experience. Yeah, showing them a little bit of diverse activity is really good thing about the grad school. See, grad school, they want to see their student is a little more mature, a little bit more active. Active means like get involved rather than just doing your own study. Because the grad school has to have a little bit of, broad concept of many things. So they don't want you to just study just one thing. So if you could demonstrate your many different activities throughout your CV, sometimes they call resume, that's something they are like looking at. So that's the experience part I'm talking about. So they also appreciate volunteer experience, extracurricular activities, always great to have it. Let's say you don't have a paid job experience, that's fine. But you got to show them something else, right? Club experience, maybe sports or volunteer experience, many things you can actually have on it. We're going to talk a lot more about this CV development and personal statement development next Tuesday, okay? So do I need research experience? This is another big question. So research degree, definitely. If you are going for Master of Science in, I don't know, chemistry, sounds like really, really like a pure academic research program. I'm pretty sure you better show them something about your research understanding and lab experience, that kind of things. And in your CV, you have to clearly say, this is my research experience, boom. This is the paper that I was writing about certain topics, boom. That's what they are expecting, if it's a research degree. If it's not really. But it's good to have it. Research degree, although it's not a research degree, it's some program, it's great to have any research experience. They love it because grad school, most of professors has PhD. So PhD means they actually have so many research experience. So for them, if their student, even though it's a professional degree program, if their student has some research component on it, great. I'd love to have my student have a research experience. So that's something a little bit advantage for those students. Also, sometimes the research degree program, especially, they're asking you to contact the research supervisor even before you apply the application and make sure that they actually accept you. That's funny, right? But then that's what securing supervisor, because a research program means you have to work with your supervisor very closely to work on your research. So if your potential supervisor say, I'm sorry, I cannot take you, then you got no shot. You have to have this. So if you don't have a research experience, it's really hard to persuade this research supervisor to accept you. So that's another barrier. But I'm talking about research degree only, okay, for that matters. And research grants and awards is something very rarely, but they ask, okay, apply this research grant and secure that. And then you are able to come to our program. They do that because that research grant is like pretty much every student in that program going to have it. That's why they do that. So research grant application has to be separate and you have to go work on it. But that's not too common for that matters. Professional degree is usually they don't asking too many things, but if you could show them a little bit of research component, just like I mentioned, they will appreciate it for sure. Especially data analysis and statistical analysis experience, always great, always actually beneficial. Okay, we have a few more things, and I'm gonna go into the Q&A session. Common requirement for admission, I just mentioned all those things. Supervising, securing supervisor, conditional, letter of reference, CVM resume. We are going to go through it next week, very, very detailed. Personal research statement is very much important either way. And interviews, admission tests, GPA we discussed, and typical online application and graduate awards as optional. There are many of them. Okay, these are the requirements. Letter of reference, personal or research statement, and GPA is the mandatory for, I must say, 100% of grad school. So these are something you have to think. The rest of them is something you have to read carefully about their admission requirement page to make sure that this is what they require. The last thing I like to discuss is beside those degree program, well, I like to go for some little bit short term or more practical for the education from colleges, postgraduate certificate program. Great. I actually went to that program too. So you need an undergraduate degree. So you have to make sure you finish your degree before you're starting this program. You can apply while you're actually doing it. Transcript is required, but they don't asking you to have a high GPA or anything. Just simply just transcript, just proving you finished it. An online application, which is Ontario Colleges.ca if you're applying for the Ontario programs. Sometimes they're asking you a statement, right? Why you want to come to this program, that sort of things. Sometimes they're asking reference. It's not mandatory. Usually they don't. Sometimes they're asking experience, but also it's kind of rare. So it's more likely the online application has a little bit of those profile you have to fill it up, and that's what they're actually looking at. So it's relatively easier to get into this kind of program. I just want you to have a list of these programs, make sure that you don't miss out these requirements, because quite often so many things happening, so it's really difficult to catch up. I just want to show you briefly the website about some admission requirement page. So this is a MSW, which is U of T's Master of Social Work program. So look at this admission requirement, very detailed. Okay, and well, I'm not gonna go too much detail. So one of them is experience, voluntary or paid on this area, right? Something like that. I'm gonna show you another one, which is psychology, Faculty of Arts and Science. And here is admission requirement right there. See, also very detailed. And they even, this is a research area, a 4-year bachelor's degree. I'm sorry, that's actually so simple. Here, this is pretty high GPA they require. So research degree typically tend to be higher GPA they require. And then they actually also have some prerequisite courses, 6 full-year courses, equivalent of this, of these kind of things. So they do have a very detail of these things. You really need to read it carefully. And if you don't get it, what that means, you can contact the office, admission officers of this particular program. That's I like to just emphasize again. Okay, I'm gonna move on because we are almost at the 50, so we can actually go into the Q&A session. So I'm suggesting you to talk to people to get some support, professors, friends, or talk to someone like us, career people. And next 2 session is a CVM Personal Statement on the next Tuesday and funding reference admission and next Thursday. So two more sessions. And all those informations will be available in this website. I think the link was on the chat box before, but here is again, another link. And I just like to recommend you another thing. So probably each career center, each campus has certain peer supporting system. So one of them is grad school peer mentor program that I'm operating it with 3 grad school students from U of T. And I just hired them, and then they are from different discipline, and they are all grad school students who can share lots of good experience, how to apply and how to make a decision. So if you'd like to make an appointment, here is a CLNX appointment system, booking AACC peers, and you can book an appointment with them directly, and you can spend like 30 minutes at least to talk about your question. Particularly, we're helping a lot about CV and personal statement development. And also every Wednesday, 11 to 12, we have this coffee chat. We talk about the grad school. So we can talk about anything. So you can just pop up because our peers will be there, peer mentors will be there to answer any question that you have casually. So that's another thing I'd like to ask you. So I put these resources here. Just make sure that you don't miss out these links. So this slide will be shared after this session. All right, now let's have some question session. So I'm gonna just go into the chat box to read if there's any question that we haven't answered it. So yes,
there's one question here I can read to you. It says,
okay.
Does research experience include coursework, such as courses that are only about lab techniques, how to design and carry out research, etc.?
Okay, it's possible. Does research experience include the coursework? Yes. If coursework is definitely about the research, like lab courses, like upper year, they usually have it. If you're, I guess, from the science student, yeah, they might consider that is a lab experience. I mean, the research experience. But when you say research experience on your CV, typically you need to develop the CV for that matters. You have to have some category clearly mentioned research interest and experience or something like that. And then you should say, okay, this is a course I have done, which is typical. It's totally fine. You don't have to have a paid those research assistant job. But I don't know what courses you are taking. So that course is something that any professor recognizes. Oh yeah, that's definitely has a research component on it, right? That kind of course, right? And you have to make a little description. So as long as that is clear, that should be okay. I hope that's answer your question. I'm reading this other chat here. Helen was mentioning, could we have the link in the chat? Okay, I think that one is done. Dara, is the virtual exhibit hall only available, accessible for a limited time? No, I don't think so. It's until December. So you have a time to take a look at all those great recordings and then other grad school information there. Yeah. Going below. Yeah. So just Sarah just mentioned about the link again. Great. And okay, I'm gonna continue go down. Hey, there's looking at applying to a postgraduate certificate program. Okay, at Michigan. Okay, Michigan is another great institution. They need specific courses, but UTSC doesn't have the specific names of courses they are looking for. Would I need to contact admissions to double check if I would be eligible? 100%. You have to. Okay, Michigan knows their required courses is not really like something that every university has it. So they can actually consult with you. Okay, so what did you have? Then you can show them, and then you actually show them your whatever the academic transcript you have, and they can actually say that, yeah, that course should be okay. Or maybe, yeah, you should take another course, which will be better. Michigan knows U of T, it's part of U of T, so they could definitely point it out. So please contact them. I really emphasize about that because a lot of students, they just looking at their website, that doesn't really give you every information. It's totally okay to contact them. It might take a couple of days. If you don't get back, contact them again, call them and email. That's how it is. That's the best way. Okay, I think that should answer your question. And okay, is there any other question you guys have? Because I think I answered most of those questions, but I'm not sure if there's anything else. We still have a few minutes.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the offering. My question is, my undergraduate bachelor degree, I got it from arts management. If I consider go to a grad school MA program in economics,
Okay.
will that be like challenging or difficult?
Doesn't sound like it. Economics, okay, I guess the Master of Economics. It depending on school. Some schools, the title is not really clear to me, to be honest, because economic is some, you said you study management and arts. I don't believe there is any big barriers for you to apply the economics related program. Possibly they might have some credit courses they want to see it. For example, like statistics, or maybe you complete certain economic courses. Possibly you already had it. So if that's the case, I don't see any big issue. Usually grad school, they don't really say, oh, this program only accept the student who had a major of this program. No, they don't usually say it. Very rare for that matters. Very specific research program, they do that. Otherwise, they are pretty much open to many different majors. So only thing that you need to be careful about is some specific courses if they require. Because for example, I was trying to look for some little bit of a political science area, and then they actually said I need these kind of credit courses, which I didn't have. So I kind of said, oh, is there any other program that I don't have to take these courses? And I found that the other program, so I applied. So you can actually juggle about that, but the program itself was similar to the other program that require courses. So sometimes that's a little bit of research you have to do.
I see.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so you mean I need to maybe reach to the person and ask more questions for suggestions?
If you already found that school and program clearly, and they didn't say clearly about if you are eligible or not, yeah, talk to them. And then again, there is a information session is happening these couple of months. Typically, October is a good time for you to see if there is an information session. You should attend. They have an open house information session, and you can ask these kind of questions directly. I did it. I actually attended at least 3 different information sessions before I made my decision. So over that, yeah. And
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly catch up because we only have a couple of minutes left. So here, I think Hayda said, do grad school look different on students who have taken a 5th, or does it make no difference? 5th year, 6th year, or 4th year, no difference, as long as you require or you fulfill all those requirements. And Ruby saying for grad school that focus on the final 2 years, will they still look at the CGPA? They are able to see all your CGPA, first of all. But in terms of eligibility, they only calculate from your final 2 years, if that's what they're asking for. But they're still going to see your CGPA. So they might actually affect some of their decision later on. But in terms of going over the minimum eligibility, no problem. Okay, you don't have to worry about it. And Dania said, if someone decides to pursue research in biology, but their undergrad is in the computer science, will major research experience compensate for lack of bio course. No, it's not compensating, but you have to be careful about, let's say the research in biology. I don't know, maybe it's a biotechnology, including some sort of like data statistical things, which computer science usually good at. It's not compensating. It's they actually maybe require those things. So absolutely you have a chance, but just take a look at their required courses if they do have it. And if you, so biology sounds like you might have to take some physical, some sort of courses in the biology area. So as long as you do that, it should be okay. But if you are not finding any course required, probably you're okay to apply. But I really want you to talk to them. Hey, is the biology courses are required for this one? You know, something like that. But if they didn't, you should be good to go. It's not a compensating, but definitely it will be beneficial. Your computer science background, absolutely. Research experience, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Okay, so Dara, I think it's the last question I'm gonna answer. Sorry, we have to go. So what if in the final 2 years, you take a mixture of B, C, D level courses? How will this impact? That's okay. That's totally okay. They definitely going to take a look at everything. But let's say in your final year, you only take those sort of bird courses. It doesn't give them a positive impact. But in terms of eligibility, that's okay. That works. But it's typically a good idea to keep a C and D. But if you took some B, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, guys, I think that our time's up. You can definitely make an appointment with many our peers or the Career Center staff in your campus. Definitely you can go with all those details questions, but I really encourage you to be active about that because this is a great month to go for it. And the link is right there, so you can visit the link to look at our recording and slides and all those things. All right, that's it. Have a great day.
Thanks.